You've spoken about DAO structure and coordination. What does it look like for a DAO to be firing on all cylinders or to be set up well?
Yeah. I think in general, being able to be in a place where you can throw many darts at the wall at once is something that is a benefit of DAOs versus a corporation, right? How do you start funding many different things happening in the ecosystem at once and seeing what the ROI is itself? I don't think anyone in crypto has gotten this right besides Nouns. And I'm not just saying this because this is Noun O'Talk, right? But it starts from how do you just allocate capital as quickly as possible to see what works and what doesn't? And how do you improve on that? And I think that is, I know this is something we've talked about as well, but this is something that Nouns can learn from is, once you fire on all cylinders and you're throwing the darts, how do you get that data to then improve upon that for the next round? That is the thing that's kind of missing from many DAOs right now.
Yeah, and we're going to get to Nouns very soon. I'd heard you said before about DAOs retaining contributors as a good thing. But then more recently, I've seen you tweet the opposite. So look, people can change their mind. I'm just curious about over the last couple of years, where that came from. You talked about this fluid, more influx of talent that can kind of churn a bit more and you get more people in versus this core contributor model. Can you speak to that a bit?
Yeah. So I think the original mental model I had, and I think this is pretty common across the space today, was that DAOs are just tokenized communities or communities themselves. And when I had a social token before, like back in 2020, that was very much the mental model I had. And it was all about how do you retain contributors. Now, my opinion on that has changed in the past year or so. It's become much more about how does work become fluid? How do you bring in new top of funnel talent? How do you give them atomic pieces of work? And then how do you make sure that that work is carried out? On-chain proposals is one way to do that. Right? By saying, hey, here's the work that I'm going to do. Here's the payment. Fund me to go do the work. You don't care about retaining that builder or that contributor after the work is done. They do the work and they move on. That's what a DAO should be, at least I think. Right, is not having a group of core contributors who are continuously iterating on product, but continuously building this inflow of talent and giving them an easy way to contribute, making it more sustainable.
Is the assumption here that the DAO is a bit more matured, either in scope or treasury? Because, I mean, a core team maybe makes sense at a very early stage, people that are super invested, or do you think all DAOs?
It's hard to say, right? I mean, people have like 20,000 definitions of what a DAO actually is, right? Maybe it isn't a DAO at first when you just have a few people. It's really a hard thing to pinpoint here. But being able to just create that passive contribution for someone coming in for the first time is really the key. That's the point where it becomes a DAO. It's when someone can start joining it and contribute and getting paid for their work within a matter of not days, but hours, even potentially, right? That is sort of, at least in my mind, what a true successful DAO looks like.